Maria Emmerich is a force. She's put out so much incredible information with her husband, Craig, and this conversation's a pretty emotional one that you can see that there's a lot more going on just in life. And all of us are experiencing this. And I think that just Maria is such a beautiful person to be able to share kind of these challenges and struggles as we all do. And so enjoy this conversation as we dive into a little bit of carnivore and just overcoming. Maria, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sowing Prosperity podcast. And you have put out such a wonderful, you and your husband Craig, information. It's just incredible. And so one of the first things that I got of y'all's was the carnivore cookbook, and trying to understand, because through the cancer journey that we've had, I truly believed that meat caused cancer early on, as I was trying to understand that. And I read the China study, and I just knew that was accurate. And so as you know, we dove in and came farther and farther. The Plant Paradox actually was the first book that made me start questioning everything that I thought I knew. Mm-hmm. And so ended up with the Carnivore Cookbook, and y'all did such an incredible job laying out the science before. It's so much more than a cookbook. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. But I wanted to just take the time to dive in with you and understand how you got to the carnivore, because I think it's still something super hard for people to wrap their minds around based off of what we've been told about meat. So how did you get into the carnivore realm?
Well, first of all, thank you for your support. I will send you any books you want. And it's funny that you said it's not just a cookbook, and I don't take offense to that, but it's funny when people say, or I'll even say it's not just a cookbook. I've said that too, where I would say I've written both educational guides and cookbooks, and cookbooks are way harder, like way, way harder. Editing them, writing them, testing recipes, going to the grocery store, breaking dishwashers, photography classes, the camera. Like, if you think about it, an educational book, you just sit down and write. Writing a cookbook, if you're going to write a good one, I have 10 recipe testers, things fail. I waste so much money on ingredients, going to the grocery store. Like, people don't realize how hard it is to write a cookbook. So just saying. But jumping into like carnivore, where did it start? Well, I hope people listen to Craig's interview, because he was the mastermind behind it. But I'll say, even when we were keto, it's been 27 years for me now. My anniversary was yesterday. I didn't like a lot of vegetables. I didn't do a lot of the cauliflower rice and the cauliflower mash. To me, that was just gross. So I never really did a lot of that. But I would still have some things, and I would write recipes with things with oxalates. And I didn't know what oxalates were at the time. I didn't know that they were bad. Even when Craig first brought up how vegetables are bad or spinach was bad, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, come on. And to this day, when I talk about vegetables to my mom, she starts like, la, 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 I don't want to hear it, Maria. Like, I said, no, Mom, I'm talking about vegetable oils. And so now I call them seed oils, because she kind of shuts down if I start bashing vegetables. And I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying that there's better use of space in our stomach. Let's just say that. So yeah, Craig got sick. He had Lyme disease for probably 10 years before we knew that he had that, because he played football, and he had a bad injury. And his friends from school still talk about when he got hurt. That's how bad it was. So we thought his pain was just from an old football injury. And I was like, dude, you're in your 40s and you can barely walk. Like, we got to figure this out. And it turned out a traditional Lyme blot test, if anybody's been tested for that, it's about 90% inaccurate. It says it's negative when it's not always negative. And any veterinarian will tell you this. It always says that the animal doesn't have Lyme if you do like an IGeneX test. An IGeneX test is very expensive. It's not covered by insurance. But when we did that, he had Lyme. I took it also just because I'm a bow hunter and I'll come out of the woods with like 16 ticks on me. And I never really thought anything of it. I knew there was Lyme disease, but I didn't think it was like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Seeing my husband go through that, it's a big deal. So anybody that's dealing with that, like my heart goes out to you, because there are really no clear answers on how to get rid of it. And he had it for so long, it made his immune system really weak. He now has something called ankylosing spondylitis. I don't know if you got into this with him.
We didn't.
Okay. It's hard to talk about. Oh, man. I'm going to want you to cut this out, but I won't make you. To see your husband go from, I have the last picture of him looking strong. It's just really hard to see them fade away like that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And you get people being like, oh, just eat carnivore. We're like, been there, done that. You know, like carnivore is great, but it's never going to get rid of this.
Yeah.
So I get a little frustrated when people are like, oh, is he just meat and salt? Like, it's like, stop, people. Yes, you know, it's been a long time. We wrote this book like, I don't know, 8 years ago now. We get it.
Right.
But it cannot get rid of what has already happened. What ankylosing spondylitis is where it's like your joints turn to bone. You become like Stone Man. And his spine has curved and he can't move his neck at all like this. So if you come to like an event where Craig's there, just be compassionate, because he usually doesn't talk about it. Like, obviously, I didn't know you didn't talk about it on yours. I just got back from Thailand like yesterday. So I will be watching his, because I love listening to his. Yeah. He's just always, he teaches me something new every time I listen to him.
No, he seems like a wonderful human being. So, Maria, I wasn't planning on going there, but I think maybe it's super important that we start with what is Lyme, what is some of those signs and symptoms, and why is it so difficult to treat and mitigate, and why is this not something that's more commonly spoken about?
I've worked with people that have Lyme and cancer at the same time, and they said Lyme is worse because there's really no way, and I'm not saying that for everybody, but a few people have told me that. So Lyme disease comes from a deer tick in most cases, and deer ticks are very, very small. It's very hard to find them. And when they get embedded, if you ever do have a tick embedded in you, what's best is put it in some tape and mail the tick in, and they can test the tick if there's Lyme disease. Because it's hard to be accurate with a human, but you can test the tick very easy. And if you do happen to get Lyme disease, it's best to catch it early. Usually chronic pain, and it kind of migrates. But there's a lot of neurological, like depression, suicidal thoughts, brain fog. There's a whole bunch of everybody's different when it comes to symptoms. His was like severe pain, and what's so like foreshadowing. When I was in high school, I volunteered at a nursing home, and I asked my favorite patient, I said, what's the secret to a happy life? And he said, take care of your back. And I was like, is that like a metaphor for something? He's like, no, if you live in chronic pain, you can't focus on anything good in your life. And I saw that in him because, I was his princess. Like, he took care of me so well, and he just couldn't anymore, you know? It's just, he was in so much pain, you know? Like, he would walk with me every day, and we would ride bike together, and there was a point where he just couldn't do any of that, you know? The reason it's so hard to get rid of is Lyme is very smart. It's kind of like syphilis, where if you decide to do the antibiotic route, which he was going to try anything to get healthy. Lyme is very smart, and it will form like cysts and busters inside your body and hide in those areas until you're done taking the antibiotic. So you feel like you got better, and then you stop the medication and it comes back with a vengeance, and it's mad. So it gets almost worse. So the antibiotics did nothing for him, and they were very expensive. I remember one that was 1 month 1 month of medication, and it was $11,000. And that was all out of pocket. Like, I think we spent more on his healing than on our house. But I just want him better, you know?
Yeah.
The hyperbaric oxygen chamber, he went to a few hospitals to try that, and that's what really helps. He was doing it this morning. He'll just wake up early and fall back asleep in it. He talked me into getting one for him. So, and that's the best thing that he's had. But he's also doing the SIRS protocol, which has probably helped him more than anything else. And he just kind of finished that up about 2 weeks ago.
So, Maria, when my son was diagnosed with cancer, I just dove in. I asked them, our oncologist, what can we do? What can we eat? What can we? And I was, essentially I was told nothing, right? Like, it just we're going to do chemo, radiation, surgery, and then that's what we do. You just live, right? Let him do his thing. But I didn't accept that and just started diving in. And so as we did that, it led down all kinds of alternative routes. And I think there's a lot of stuff that's pretty scary out there in the alternative things. But what have you seen I love that you brought up the hyperbaric. What have you seen in alternative, or maybe not necessarily alternative is the right word, but more of outside of that conventional methodology of healthcare is working or seeming to help?
Walking, like not wearing shoes for 6 months, walking out, it's just like weird things like that. Just, we don't wear shoes here. You can go to the grocery store without shoes. And we kind of just hang out where we're at because it's easier for him. But, we were walking without shoes on the earth, and just how much better he feels in this environment. We're in Hawaii, for those of you who don't know. It's just a different lifestyle here. It's very simple, minimal clothing, minimal toxins. You're just living. You're eating, really fresh food from the earth, and it just feels like a different lifestyle, a different pace, different stress. We don't have a car. It's just a totally different lifestyle than what maybe we were used to in the past, busy, work. And I'm not saying we don't work a lot. We love helping people, but it's different. I haven't put out books in a while. But the sauna helps a lot. Doing, saunas, getting rid of that. He's done a lot of binders. If you're binders, they get rid of like toxins and things like that. That has helped. But the oxygen chamber is probably the most, and eating carnivore. That is so anti-inflammatory. It really helps with his pain, to the point where this was probably, 10 years ago. Some friends asked us over for dinner, and they made us burgers, and they put some like coleslaw on the top because they didn't use bread. They were trying to make it pretty, and coleslaw, was made from cabbage, and he ate it to be kind. And for me, I don't have a reaction. But for him, he was in pain for days after that.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Cabbage is one that's really high in oxalates, and oxalates are like little crystals for anybody who doesn't know. And when you get rid of them, a lot of times you'll have oxalate dumping. For me, I was in my 20s and I had styes in my eyes, which is one sign of oxalate dumping. But you can see them come right out of your skin for some people. Some people, it's like gout. They'll feel it in their toes, the crystals coming out. I had someone have it in their jaw. The crystals were coming out. And so it was hard to chew because it was like in these pockets over here. But it's just interesting how these foods that we're told are so good and the foods that we're told to avoid, like, it's just so flipped. And when people are ready to hear it, they're ready to hear it. But I was just in Thailand where there's a lot of vegans, and they were open to listening to what I had to say, which was really, really cool. I think people are they want to find health. They want to feel better. So I just love helping spread the word with those types of things. And like what I did was I talked about what a human bodies look like, because we were talking about fiber and getting gassy. And I was like, well, the cecum of a koala bear is very long, and it's like a big circle like that. And that's what digests fiber. So they can eat, bamboo all day long and have no problem. But a human, we look more like a lion, which is like it's like a little pouch like that. So when we eat a lot of broccoli or cauliflower, we get gassy. We're not meant to digest that. So this is one of the reasons when you just get back into sure, everybody's different. Our hormones are different, this and that, but what our bodies do are the same,
Sure.
right? What they look like is the same. It's not like your cecum is really long and mine's short. That's not what it is. They're all short, and like the small intestine versus large intestine. Everybody says that, we come from apes and that, they're vegetarian, or like the gorillas, right? The gorillas are vegetarian. But if you look at the colon versus small intestine versus large intestine, it looks nothing like theirs. Ours is totally different. We're meant to digest animal protein. They're not.
Yeah.
So just looking at biology kind of explains the whole thing of what we're supposed to digest. And, our community is growing, which is good. And people like you that are spreading the word, which is great. It's just, I'm surprised it hasn't grown more with the testimonies, with how people are feeling. I don't know.
Well, let's, I think that's an important topic from your perspective on why hasn't it grown more? Like what are the holdups from Maria? From my side, I own a grocery store. I mean, that's what my day job is food, and it's focused on local and regenerative practices. That's like my world. And that foundation is leading towards health. But as you alluded to earlier, I think there's more to health than just what we eat. But what I'm finding is that we don't have enough farmers, for one. The supply is challenging. The quality is challenging, and we have some really bad mixed messaging, whether it's greenwashing or it's just straight up just lies. The local meats are very challenging at times to get, and they sometimes can just straight be cost prohibitive. So it's so much easier to go to, say, a big box store and load up on cheap meat than it is to go to a farmer, go to a farmer's market. So I said all that to say I think logistics is part of it, but what do you see as a holdup of why more people aren't embracing this way of more of an animal based?
There's a couple of things that you said that just triggered some memories. I'm a bow hunter, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm not about to stop doing it. But when I do harvest a deer, sometimes I post a picture online because I'm very proud, because bow hunting is very hard. I sit for months on end, day after day, for hours. And I don't take copious amounts of deer. I take one. And that one deer feeds my whole family. And I love showing my kids how hard it is to clean the deer, dress the deer, get the meat, and we use all of it. And there was copious amounts of people. I think I lost like 3,000 followers in an hour, which is fine. You can go away. You don't need my free information, right? But I remember this one lady saying, you should be like the rest of us civilized humans and buy your meat at the store. What? Like, this is so natural. But what you said was about quality. This is what sits in my head while I'm sitting hunting. These are no longer grass-fed animals. There's a soybean field 10 miles that way. All of these fields that are just junk, right? And the deer didn't just stay in my, oak tree, area. So they're no longer really a grass-fed animal, right? I don't know. It's just kind of set with me. Like, the quality has totally changed.
That's true.
But I'm still going to do it because I enjoy it. I feel proud to do it. And I don't know, it's a hobby. And people call me cruel for doing it. It's like, it's not cruel. I honor that animal. And if you think about it, where I'm at in Wisconsin, I have 12 deer tags. I did this last year because there's so many deer and not a lot of hunters. And what happens then is they die of starvation. You hit them with your car and you could die. there's something called a limiting factor. If you don't have hunters, they're going to die somehow else. You can't have a herd that big. You just can't. So it's not cruel. I think I'm very compassionate, actually.
I think we've just gotten so disconnected from our food. We've gotten so disconnected from agriculture in general, and I mean, I don't think anybody enjoys killing an animal for killing's sake, right? Like, well, it's about the nourishment. It's about doing more than just taking life. It's not just out just doing serial murder, right? Like, but nobody's after that.
No.
But to me, what's cruel is the feedlots. To me, what's cruel is the animals standing in their own waste up to their knees, or being locked in a house that they can't breathe in. And like, I live in Arkansas, right? Like, I have grown up around these industries. I know it. I've seen it. I've lived it. So that's cruel, right? And so, to me, when we support these regenerative practices, that we're building the soil, we're giving these animals an incredible life, and we're providing nutrients and nourishment for our communities, ourselves. That's just not cruel. They, for the most part, they have one bad day, right? The day that they lose their life, right? But that they have a great life. And so I think we're just so disconnected from our food.
We're totally disconnected from our food. And what's interesting is, if you actually look at the amount of deaths that happen with a vegan diet, it's way more than a cow could feed my whole family all year. One.
Right.
If you know how many birds die from all the vegan crops that are sprayed, and, or like they take out a whole field to grow some crops for a vegan, you're going to kill about 12 million birds, so it's your choice. But I don't know. I think that they're just so removed from that.
Yeah, no, there's a huge disconnect there. So something that, as you were going through everything with Craig, three people that have really opened my eyes to things outside of diet are Laszlo Boros, Dr. Boros, with his work around deuterium, Morley Robbins, his work around copper, and then minerals, mainly copper, and then Jack Cruz with the quantum aspect and light and things. And so as he's Jackson has his own flavor, but what it has done is it's made me more open and aware to things outside of just our diet. And I think you were spot on when you were, there's obviously some aggravation there, and people think that carnivore is going to fix everything, or a certain diet's going to fix everything. It's just not the whole piece of the human experience. So where do you think that those frontiers are, Maria, that we can sincerely turn the corner and start helping more people, and I mean, including Craig?
Well, like you mentioned your son with cancer, and a lot of people are like, they address the food, but I think we should address the environment first. We're living in this toxic, excuse my French, shitstorm.
Yeah.
For scented candles, lotions, makeup, like everything we're putting on our skin, there's no filter. It goes right into your bloodstream. You know what I'm saying? And we're putting all of these sunscreens, and it just drives me nuts, because the sunscreen, we have signs, please don't use this. The United States is terrible with their sunscreen rules. We do not, if you go to Korea, the sunscreen is great. Like, it's not toxic. Like, their standards are so high. We haven't allowed a new change in the chemicals they allowed in sunscreen in 20 years now in the United States. So people put their sunscreen on, then go right into the ocean, and the coral reef is pretty much dead. I used to snorkel 20 years ago, and there was fish all around me, right? And now you might see one like, toot, 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 But one of the reasons is all of the sunscreen that people, and if you think about it, it's killing the reef. They're putting it on their babies. It's just, that's all chemicals. So, but not just that. The dryer sheets that people use, it's not just terrible for the environment, it's terrible for your skin, and everything going into your bloodstream. I mean, you name it. All of this, like, environmental stuff. Living at a golf course, I fear for those people. Sorry if you're one of those, Because just think about all the chemicals they spray on those golf courses
Yeah.
all day long. You know, there's a lot of chemicals out there, not just with our food. So,
We we just had Stephanie Seneff on, who's also living in Hawaii, and so she broke down a lot of the glyphosate aspects. And one of her theories with glyphosate and the bioaccumulation is that it's displacing glycine in the proteins and the amino acid chains, and so that is terrifying. And it's something that I honestly don't know that I've heard outside of Stephanie's work. And so just to your point, the chemicals, glyphosate being one of them, it's absolutely everywhere. And if she's right and it is bioaccumulating through glycine, amino acids, and protein, that is just sincerely terrifying.
it is terrifying, and not a lot of people are aware of that or where it comes from. And I know you homeschool your children like we do, and I have to tell you a little story. Homeschooling is not always what it's cracked up to be. Like sometimes because with COVID, it opened up a whole new thing. So my kids do a lot of online classes because they're getting to the age where I don't know a lot of stuff. Like they're doing advanced math and they're in college math and stuff. So anyway, my son Kai was in this class, and I was out on my paddleboard, and Craig was texting me. He said, the teacher said they need some starch for like a project. I was like, starch? Like right now? I'm on my paddleboard. And I was like, what about like gelatin? Would that be okay? And the kids in the class were saying, you don't have any starch? What about like Capri Sun? I don't know why Capri Sun came up, but he's like, you don't have any Capri Sun? Because he said we don't have any sugar either. And Kai's like, what's Capri Sun? And so the kid proceeded to tell him what Capri Sun was. And he said, that sounds like sugar, cancer, and diabetes. And I was like, I just love that my 13-year-old is strong enough to say that back to him. Like we don't force what they eat. They're old enough to make their own choices, but they know what makes them feel good. They know what makes them feel bad. And just being aware of what food is doing. If people knew what glyphosate was doing, they wouldn't eat it anymore, right? Or they wouldn't have it in their house. So I just think people are unaware. They're following just the wrong information. The doctors are telling them to do things. And I could give the facts all day long, but I have a lot of people that when their doctor says, don't do that, even though they've had maybe 2 hours of nutrition, they'll listen to the doctor.
Yes. Just almost every time. Almost every time. So what's next for y'all? What are you working on? What can we do to help? And I'm excited to see what's next.
Oh, you're very sweet. I can't keep up with work. So a while back, I don't know if it's 10 years ago or so, we started a keto and carnivore certification program. So we, have our team of coaches and we teach them everything. And then we have weekly meetings, and they can email me any time of day. But if they have a hard client with cancer or whatever, they can't answer the question, they just come to me and I help them, like step them along. 99% of people is about weight loss or, finding health, getting off diabetes medication, things like that. But there are some hard cases, skin issues, rashes, like how can you get rid of those, histamine reactions, whatever. So I'm kind of like the background noise that helps them walk their clients through. But like my favorite thing to do, I don't even get paid for this, but I like to do retreats. I just got back from Thailand, like I mentioned. I never thought I'd be able to afford to travel ever. And so when these companies reached out to me to do like keto and carnivore retreats around the world, I'm like, where can I go next? I can't get enough of it because I don't know. I have severe wanderlust. Like I just love turning the corner and seeing something new. So I'm just, I'm actually in the middle of picking a new place, whether it be Vietnam or a lot of people want to go back to Thailand, but man, it's hot. So if you don't like the heat, it's hot. It's real hot. But I'm trying to pick another place.
I love it. So Maria, just to go on a little bit of a tangent, what do you feel is kind of like the perception of the world? Like I feel like we, I was talking to Joel Salatin recently, and he made the analogy of a wasp nest on a porch, right? And the door opens, and then the wasps all just kind of got their attention up, and they're just all in this high alert. And he made that analogy to how people feel right now. And so I'm curious, as you've been traveling all over and experienced different things, what is the state of the world in your opinion? Are we like that wasp nest?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not, maybe I'm like eternally positive though. I was just in Korea before Thailand for about a week, and it was just both places extremely nice, extremely catering. And I wasn't, it's not that I was at some fancy place or something like that. It was just these hole in the wall restaurants that would give you your shirt off their back if you needed it. And they don't know me. They don't know me. Just the kindest people. They just want to, I think people just want, we all want the same thing. We want to be able to provide for our family, spend time with them, enjoy nature, eat good food. But I will say that after COVID, the obesity rate went sky high, and we're still sitting at that. Not in other countries, though. When I was in Korea, there's not one overweight, obese person. People make fun of my size all the time. They look just like me. You go to Thailand, I'm their size. There's not obese. There's none of that. But here, we're looking at over 50% are obese or overweight. Over 50%. We have a problem. We have a problem.
We do. And it's to me, it's almost a chicken and the egg type of situation on how we got here. I just feel like there's so many issues, but I like how you said, the positive, that solution. What's the first step solution? I feel like is nutrition, right? It's get that diet and environment right. You get those two things, and then the other stuff can be built on. Would you agree with that assessment, or?
I don't know. There's so many people like not sleeping. That alone is going to keep your blood sugars high no matter what you eat.
Sure.
If you're in a stressful environment where you're not safe, you could eat all the healthy food, but your overall health is going to really be bad.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that food isn't first, but I don't know. There's a lot of factors that, that's another thing too. I was like, why was I born in the country I was? Like, I'm so lucky. Like, to given these opportunities, these people were so poor, but they were so happy. Like, I feel very, I don't know, spoiled. Like, it's not fair. Like, I saw poverty like no other, especially when I adopted my children. I guess I'm very grateful for, you are very lucky to be, you won the lottery just by being born in the United States. Even though despite the overweight, obesity, that's a good problem. Is because we can afford the food. We can, I saw so many people that could not afford the food.
Yeah.
But they were not begging for it either. That was just their life.
The perspective is just fascinating. Where were the boys adopted from? Where were they from?
Ethiopia. Yeah. We do plan on going back, but it's not safe right now. There's kind of the whole Ukraine and Russia type thing going on in Ethiopia, but you don't hear about that.
Yeah. No, there's major issues. Major issues. Maria, so thank you for taking the time and putting the work out. You've got to have some jet lag going on, being just getting back from Thailand.
I didn't mean to end on a bad note. I do want everybody to just be like, pinch yourself, because we are lucky that we can, when food is there, we get to have it, and we're very blessed to have that. So it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to say no to, and it's right. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Because when you think about all of this, and literally right before you came on, Jason Redman, who was a Navy SEAL who was injured really bad, he's just all on mindset, and he wrote the book Overcome. that mindset that we can do something, right? And it regardless, maybe it's not nutrition, maybe that's not first, but it doesn't matter if we focus on what we can control and we're doing something, and then it'll build on and we can do it. And so I just think there's so many resources and so many incredible people doing amazing things that we just find it, just have that awareness that we can do something. What can we do and connect?
Just take one step, one thing. You don't have to change your whole life today or tomorrow. Just take one little piece of information you pick from all of your different podcasts that you have, and slowly over time you get to be super healthy. I just want to leave on one note. Is that okay? Since we were talking about Ethiopia.
Absolutely.
So we had a driver. We had the same driver when we adopted the boys. The United States wouldn't let us bring them back, so we had to go back there twice. But the same guy, his name was Milky. He's from Ethiopia. And we said, Milky, you helped us out so much this week. We want to give you money, but what are you going to spend your money on? We just wondered, and he's like, meat. And this was way before we were, complete carnivores. He said, I'm going to buy meat. And it's just funny because, we're all lucky to have meat every single day. And for him, he was going to spend his extra money on meat. And the meat store was not like a grocery store like yours. It was like a metal hut with no air conditioning. And that slab of meat was hanging there all week. Wow. But when you look at the acidity of our stomach, we're more carnivores, or we're more scavengers than we are carnivores. Our pH is about 1.5, which is lower than a hyena. So we should be able to handle that meat that's been sitting there all week. But most people are on acid blockers and things like that, so they can't. But
yeah, that's a whole nother tangent on the whole proton pump inhibitors and antacids and stuff. That's a big issue, big issue that a lot of people don't understand. But man, I sincerely cannot thank you enough. Craig sent me your keto book. I had not read that, so I cannot wait to dive in. And the work y'all are doing is incredible. And definitely, you and Craig are going to be in my prayers. I'm fascinated with the Lyme topic, alpha gal. I don't know. There just seems like something just doesn't make sense around all that to me. But we're just see what we can learn and figure out and apply. And I just want to again thank you for taking the time to spend an hour with me.
Thanks, Logan. It's been an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on Sowing Prosperity. Be sure to follow along across the social media platforms, including YouTube, and be sure to go to sowingprosperity.com.